The moment I saw her ring, my heart stopped beating. My baby sister, the same girl I had once carried on my back to school, the same little girl I used to braid her hair when Mama was too tired, the same innocent child who used to call me her second mother, was now engaged to the man whose crime I rotted 20 years in prison for. My husband. Her smile was radiant, her hand stretched forward proudly, flashing the diamond that once belonged to me. And there he was, standing tall beside her. Older now, but still carrying that air of power that had fooled the world for decades. His arm wrapped around her waist as if she belonged to him, as if the past didn't exist, as if my sacrifice hadn't been buried in the cold steel of prison walls. My knees buckled. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear the ring off her finger, drag her away, and tell her the truth she was too young to remember. But instead, my lips quivered, my chest tightened, and I whispered only one word under my breath. No. And then my baby sister turned her head, looked at me with wide eyes, and said something that made my blood turn cold. But before I tell you what she said, please, if you're watching this, don't forget to like, watch, and subscribe. Because this story isn't just about betrayal, it's about sacrifice, pain, and revenge like you've never heard before. My name is Claire Matthews. I am 45 years old. 20 years ago, I was a wife, a mother, and the big sister every little girl dreamed of having. I grew up in a small town in Ohio with my parents and my baby sister, Emily. Our home wasn't rich, but it was full of love. My father was a mechanic, my mother a nurse. I was the first daughter, Emily the second, 10 years younger than me. By the time I was 18, I was already helping raise her, feeding her, walking her to school, protecting her from bullies. I promised myself I would always keep her safe, no matter what. When I was 22, I met Daniel. He was everything a girl like me thought she wanted, charming, tall, with that confident smile that made you forget your own name. He wasn't just a man, he was a dream dressed in a suit. My parents weren't convinced, but I was blinded by love. And when he put that ring on my finger, I believed my life had finally found its happy ending. 2 years later, we had a son, Jacob, the brightest light of my life. His laughter could chase away every storm. I was a wife, a mother, a sister, and I thought nothing could break the family I had built. But I was wrong. Daniel wasn't the man I thought he was. Behind the polished smile was a shadow darker than night. His family was powerful, his father a wealthy politician who had built an empire of influence. And Daniel had inherited not just his father's wealth, but his secrets. Secrets that could destroy reputations, secrets that could end lives. The night that changed everything still burns in my memory like a fresh scar. It was raining. Jacob was asleep in his room. Emily was just 15 then, in her pajamas, curled on the couch watching TV. I was in the kitchen washing dishes when I heard the scream. I rushed outside to see Daniel standing over a man, our neighbor, Mr. Callahan, his lifeless body sprawled on the wet grass. Blood pooled around him, rain washing it thin into the soil. Daniel's hand held the weapon, his eyes wild, desperate. He grabbed me by the shoulders, shaking me hard. Claire, listen to me. If this gets out, everything is gone. My career, my father's name, our future. You have to take the fall for me. You have to. I froze. My stomach turned. The thought of losing him, of losing the father of my child, the man I had promised to love, blinded me. He said if I loved him, if I loved Jacob, I would save him. And I did. When the police came, Daniel stood behind me as I whispered the words that would seal my fate. It was me. I did it. The trial was swift. The evidence pointed to me, because I made sure it did. I signed away my freedom with trembling hands. Emily cried in the courtroom, screaming my name as the judge sentenced me to 20 years in prison. My parents' faces crumbled in disbelief. Jacob, just a boy, was too young to understand why his mother was being taken away. Prison is hell. The walls suffocate you. The bars remind you every day of what you gave up. I counted every year, every birthday I missed, every Christmas I spent alone, every letter from Emily that grew fewer and fewer until they stopped coming. But through it all, I kept one thought alive. That one day, I would come home. That one day, my sacrifice would mean something. That one day, Daniel would be there, waiting, and my sister, my baby sister, would still look at me as her hero. But that was the fantasy. The reality was the diamond ring on Emily's finger. The reality was the man I sacrificed everything for standing beside her, smiling like a king. And the reality was her eyes, my baby sister's eyes, burning with a secret I couldn't yet understand. Because just as I opened my mouth to speak, she looked at me and said the words that shattered what was left of my soul. "Why are you here?" Emily's voice trembled, but not with joy, not with the reunion I had dreamed of for 20 years. Her words were sharp, like knives cutting into my chest. She didn't run to hug me. She didn't cry with relief. She looked at me as if I were a ghost that had crawled out of the grave. And Daniel. Oh, Daniel, his eyes slid away from mine. He wouldn't look at me. He squeezed her hand instead, the same way he used to squeeze mine when we stood before our family and swore our vows. My pulse roared in my ears. My breath hitched. I came home, I whispered, my voice cracking. "Emily, it's me. It's Claire. Your sister." Her smile faltered, just for a moment. Her lips parted, but Daniel pulled her closer, wrapping his arm around her shoulder. "Emily," he said softly, "you don't have to explain anything to her. She's been gone too long." Gone too long? I felt the heat rise in my chest, my throat burning. Gone too long? I gave 20 years of my life so he could stand here, clean and free, smiling like nothing had happened. I wanted to scream, to throw the truth in their faces. But my voice broke into a whisper instead. You were supposed to wait for me," I said to him, my eyes brimming with tears. "You promised." Daniel finally looked at me, and in his eyes I didn't see guilt. I didn't see regret. I saw victory. People change, Claire. Life moves on. Emily shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting between us. She didn't know the full story. She was too young back then, too sheltered. She remembered the trial, but not the truth. She remembered me as the murderer. The shame. The disgrace. To her, I was no longer a sister, but a stain. I wanted to grab her shoulders and shake her until she remembered. But before I could move, Jacob walked in. My son. He was 22 now, a grown man. The last time I saw him, he was 2, clutching his teddy bear as the officers dragged me away. And here he was, taller than Daniel, his jaw sharp, his eyes piercing blue like mine. He froze when he saw me. "Mom," his voice cracked. Tears poured down my face as I stumbled forward. "Jacob? Oh God, Jacob." I wrapped my arms around him, holding him tight, breathing in the scent of my own child after 20 years. He hugged me back, stiff at first, then stronger, his body shaking against mine. But then Daniel's voice cut through the moment, like a blade. "Jacob, step away." Jacob stiffened, his arms loosening. He looked from me to Daniel, confusion flashing in his eyes. "Dad, what are you talking about?" "This is Mom." Daniel's jaw clenched. "She stopped being your mother when she murdered Mr. Callahan." My stomach lurched. Murderer. That word still followed me like a shadow. I wanted to scream the truth, to tell Jacob everything. But then Emily's hand slipped into Daniel's, and the sight silenced me. Jacob's gaze shifted. His eyes narrowed. "What the hell is going on here?" he demanded. "Why are you holding Aunt Emily's hand like that?" The room went silent. Daniel's face stayed calm, but Emily's cheeks flushed red. She opened her mouth, but no words came. I could see Jacob's hands trembling, his eyes widening as the pieces began to connect. His voice rose. "You're telling me after everything Mom went through, after 20 years in prison, you're with her? With Aunt Emily?" The silence shattered with Jacob's fury. He shoved Daniel back, his fist clenching. "You ruined her life. You destroyed our family, and now this." Daniel straightened his suit, his face unbothered. "Careful, son. You don't understand the choices adults have to make." "Adults." Jacob spat. "You're a coward. A liar. You let Mom rot in prison for you, didn't you?" The words hit me like lightning. My son, my baby boy, was seeing the truth I had hidden all those years. Tears filled my eyes, but before I could confirm it, Daniel's face darkened. His hand twitched toward his pocket. And in that moment I knew he was reaching for something. Something dangerous. The same way he had that night 20 years ago when he ended Mr. Callahan's life. I grabbed Jacob's arm, yanking him back. My pulse raced, my breath ragged. Emily gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Because Daniel was no longer just my husband. He was a man ready to silence the only people who still knew the truth. And as his hand pulled free from his pocket, something gleamed under the light. It gleamed under the light. A knife. Small, sharp, the kind you could hide in your pocket but deadly enough to take a life in seconds. Emily screamed, her hands flying to her mouth. Jacob stepped in front of me, his chest rising and falling like a storm. "Put it down," he shouted, his voice cracking with anger. Daniel didn't flinch. His eyes locked on me, like I was prey. "You don't belong here, Claire. You should have stayed in prison where you put yourself. You walk back into this house thinking you can ruin everything I've built?"
No.
Not again. My pulse hammered so loud, I thought my heart would burst. He was going to do it again. Just like with Mr. Callahan. Only this time, it wouldn't be a neighbor's life ruined. It would be his own family's blood staining his hands. I stepped forward, my voice shaking. "Daniel, stop this. Jacob is your son." But his eyes didn't soften. Not even for Jacob. They were cold, hard, ruthless. Jacob's hands curled into fists. He was ready to fight his own father. My son, the boy I raised for only 2 years before prison stole him from me, was about to defend me with his life. And Emily, my baby sister, she was frozen, torn between the man she loved and the sister she had once worshipped. Her eyes darted, her lips trembling. "Daniel, please stop," she whispered, her voice barely audible. But he didn't stop. He lunged forward. I screamed, grabbing Jacob by the shoulders and pulling him back. The knife slashed through the air, missing by inches, the sharp sound of it cutting against nothing making my whole body tremble. Jacob shoved Daniel with all his strength, sending him crashing into the table. The knife clattered onto the floor, spinning, stopping just inches away from Emily's feet. She gasped and stepped back. The room was chaos. My heart pounded so hard I thought my chest would crack open. Jacob's voice was thunder. "You tried to kill her. Admit it. You killed Callahan, and you tried to kill Mom just now. You're nothing but a murderer." The words pierced the air like bullets. Daniel's face twisted, veins bulging in his neck. He stood, his chest heaving, his eyes blazing. "Shut up," he roared, his voice shaking the walls. But Jacob didn't back down. He stood tall, his fists clenched, his jaw set. For the first time, I saw the man my son had become, a man who wouldn't let his father's lies control him anymore. And for the first time, I saw fear flicker in Daniel's eyes. Because Jacob wasn't a child anymore. He was strong, determined, and willing to expose the truth. But then Emily, sweet, innocent Emily, did something that cut deeper than any knife ever could. She bent down, scooped up the weapon from the floor, and held it tightly in her hand. "Emily, no." I cried, my voice breaking. "Give it to me." "Don't." But she didn't move toward me. She moved toward him, toward Daniel. Her eyes, wet with tears, burned with something I had never seen before. Loyalty. Blind, dangerous loyalty. She pressed the knife against her chest, facing us with trembling hands. "Stop it. All of you," she shouted, her voice cracking. "I love him. I don't care what he did 20 years ago. I don't care what you say now. He's mine." The room went silent. My breath caught in my throat. My baby sister, the girl I had raised, the girl I had sacrificed everything for, was choosing him. Choosing the man who destroyed me. Daniel smirked, stepping behind her, resting his hand on her shoulder as if she were a shield. "You see," he said, his voice calm now, smug. "She knows where her future lies. Not with you, Claire. Never with you." Jacob's fists trembled. "Emily, you don't understand. He ruined Mom's life. He ruined ours. But Emily shook her head violently, her tears falling like rain.
No.
She ruined it herself. She killed Callahan. She's a murderer. And she's jealous because I found love where she lost it. Her words were like daggers, slicing through me. Jealous? That's what she thought. That after 20 years in a cage, my rage was jealousy and not justice? I staggered back, my chest hollow, my vision blurring. My own sister had just buried me deeper than any prison cell could. And then Jacob shouted something I'll never forget. Emily, if you don't give me that knife, I swear. But before he could finish, Emily gasped, her body jerking forward. Because Daniel's hand had moved.
Swift. Silent. Deadly.
And now the knife, still in her hands, was no longer pressed against her chest. It was pressed against Jacob's throat. The blade gleamed against Jacob's skin. His jaw clenched, his breath sharp and unsteady. I froze, my entire body paralyzed with fear. My son. My only son. After 20 years of prison, after nights of praying for just one chance to hold him again, here he was, and one wrong move could take him from me forever. Emily, I whispered, my voice trembling.
Please.
You don't want to do this. Her hands shook violently, her knuckles white as she clutched the handle. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Don't make me choose, she cried. Don't make me lose him. But Daniel's voice, low and commanding, slithered into her ear. You're not losing me, sweetheart. You're saving us. She's the enemy. Don't you see? Claire wants to destroy everything we've built. If Jacob sides with her, he destroys us too. My heart stopped. He was using her blind love the same way he used me 20 years ago. He had always been a master of twisting loyalty into chains. Emily, look at me. I pleaded, my tears blinding me. I raised you. I fed you. I carried you on my back when you couldn't walk another step. I gave up my life, so you could have yours. Do you think he would ever sacrifice for you? Do you? Her lips trembled. Her eyes darted between me and Jacob. I could see the battle in her soul, the little girl I once knew clawing against the woman Daniel had molded. Mom, Jacob's voice was steady, even with the blade at his throat. Don't beg her. Don't beg him. They don't deserve it. I looked at him, panic searing my chest. Jacob, don't. But his gaze was sharp, filled with the strength I hadn't realized he carried. If this is how it ends, then let it end with the truth. He's a murderer. You're innocent. And I will never call that man my father again. The words cracked the air like thunder. Daniel's face darkened, his jaw tightening. He stepped closer, pressing his hand over Emily's trembling one, forcing the knife harder against Jacob's skin. A thin red line appeared. My scream lodged in my throat. Enough, Daniel roared. If you don't shut your mouth, I'll finish what should have been done years ago. I should have let you rot without ever calling you my son. Jacob didn't flinch. He stared straight into his father's eyes.
Do it.
Show her who you really are. The tension was unbearable. My chest felt like it was caving in. Emily sobbed harder, her body shaking under the weight of Daniel's grip. Her eyes met mine for the briefest moment, and I saw it, the spark of doubt, the horror creeping in, the truth clawing at her. Emily, I whispered again, softly this time. If you do this, you'll lose me forever. You'll lose him too. You'll wake up one day, and you'll realize you're standing beside a monster who will never love you the way you think. He'll take everything from you like he took everything from me. Her sobs grew louder. The knife wavered. For the first time, Daniel's grip didn't feel unshakable. And then, suddenly, Jacob moved. In one swift motion, he twisted his body, knocking Emily's arm away. The knife clattered to the floor, spinning across the hardwood. I lunged forward, scooping it up with shaking hands. For a split second, the three of us froze. Me holding the weapon. Emily collapsed on the floor, sobbing. Jacob breathing heavily, his chest heaving with adrenaline. And Daniel. His eyes were locked on me. The same eyes that had once whispered love, that had once convinced me to throw my life away, now staring at me with raw hatred. "You think you've won?" he spat, his voice low, venomous. "You think you're free? Claire, I own you. I always have. You may have walked out of those prison gates, but you'll never escape me." Something in me broke. Years of silence. Years of shame. Years of being his prisoner, even behind bars. My hand tightened around the knife. For the first time in 2 decades, I wasn't afraid of him anymore. "You don't own me," I said, my voice trembling but strong. "Not anymore." Daniel's lips curled into a cold smile. "Then prove it." He stepped toward me. 1 step. 2 steps. My heart raced. The knife shook in my grip. Jacob shouted, "Mom, don't," but I couldn't hear him. The years of pain. The stolen time. The betrayal of my sister. The lies. They all exploded inside me as Daniel lunged forward. And I swung the knife. The room filled with a sound I'll never forget.
A gasp.
A thud.
Blood.
And when I looked down, my hand still holding the weapon, my eyes widened in horror. Because it wasn't Daniel who had fallen. It was Emily. Her scream pierced the air as the knife sank in. Emily's body crumpled to the floor, her hands clutching her side, blood seeping between her trembling fingers. My heart shattered into pieces.
No.
"Emily." I dropped the knife instantly, falling to my knees beside her. My hands pressed against the wound, desperate, frantic. "Stay with me, baby.
Please stay with me."
I didn't mean... Oh God, I didn't mean to. Her face was pale, her lips trembling. "Claire," she whispered, her voice weak, fragile, like the little girl who once clung to me in thunderstorms. Tears blurred my vision, dripping onto her skin. Behind me, Jacob was frozen, shock written across his face. "Mom, what did you do?" His voice broke, torn between horror and fear. But Daniel didn't waste a second. He stood above us, calm, collected, with that smirk that had haunted me for years. "Perfect," he muttered, his tone laced with venom. "Absolutely perfect. The murderer strikes again." His words stabbed deeper than any knife. He was already crafting the story in his head. Emily, the beloved younger sister, betrayed and wounded by the ex-convict. Me, the monster who had spent 20 years behind bars and returned only to prove the world right about me. "No," I screamed, my hands pressing harder against Emily's wound. "She needs a hospital. Call someone. Please." Daniel crouched down, his voice low, meant only for me. "Do you think anyone will believe you? You just stabbed your own sister in front of your son. History repeats itself, Claire. You're nothing but a curse." I wanted to claw his face, to scream the truth to the world, but Emily's hand weakly clutched mine, pulling my focus back to her. Her eyes fluttered, tears mixing with blood on her lips. I didn't know," she whispered. My chest tightened. "Didn't know what, baby?" Her lips trembled, her words almost lost in the air. "Didn't know he was like this." Her gaze flicked toward Daniel, full of pain and betrayal. And then her body went limp. "No," I screamed again, shaking her shoulders, begging her to open her eyes. My baby sister, the girl I had sworn to protect, the girl I went to prison for, the girl I had raised like my own, was slipping away in my arms. Jacob dropped to his knees beside me, his face pale. "Mom, she's still breathing. We need to get her out of here.
Now."
But Daniel stood in our way, blocking the door, his arms crossed like a gatekeeper to hell. "No one's leaving this house," he said coldly. "If she survives, she'll ruin everything. And if she dies, you'll take the blame again." His words twisted in my gut. He wanted me caged. He wanted me silenced. He wanted me destroyed. But this time, I wasn't the same naive woman who had taken the fall for him 20 years ago. This time, I had Jacob. I had truth. And I had nothing left to lose. I stood, blood soaking my hands, fury burning in my chest. "Move, Daniel." He didn't flinch. "Or what?" Jacob stood too, his fists clenched. "Or I'll make you." For a moment, silence hung heavy in the room. Daniel's smirk returned, slow, calculated. You think you can take me, boy? You're just like your mother, full of fire but no control. And then it happened. Jacob lunged. The two collided with the force of 20 years of rage, fists flying, furniture crashing. Emily's faint moans echoed behind me as I tried to keep her alive, my heart torn between saving her and saving my son. Jacob's punch landed hard. Daniel's lips split, blood sprang. But Daniel was stronger than I remembered. He slammed Jacob into the wall, his hands around my son's throat. Stop, I screamed, my voice raw. Daniel, stop. But he didn't stop. He squeezed harder, his eyes wild, a man unhinged. Jacob's face turned red, his hands clawing at his father's grip. His legs kicked, his breath short, desperate. My scream tore through the house.
No.
Don't take him from me, too. And then I saw it, Daniel's other hand, reaching for the shattered glass on the floor. A shard big enough to end a life. And he lifted it, pressing it against Jacob's neck. The glass pressed against Jacob's neck, a thin line of blood already marking his skin. His eyes bulged, gasping for air under Daniel's crushing grip. My scream ripped from my throat, raw, animal, desperate. Daniel, stop.
Please.
He's your son. But Daniel only laughed, a cruel, hollow sound that chilled me to my bones. My son? He's nothing like me.
He's weak.
Just like you. Something inside me snapped. For 20 years, I had carried his lies, his crime, his shadow. For 20 years, I had been silent, obedient, broken. But watching him now, ready to take Jacob's life the way he had stolen Callahan's, ignited a fire that burned through every chain he had ever wrapped around me. I grabbed the nearest object I could find, a heavy lamp from the table, and with every ounce of strength in me, I swung it across his head. The crack echoed like thunder. Daniel staggered, releasing Jacob, the shard of glass clattering to the floor. Jacob collapsed, coughing, clutching his throat, sucking in desperate breaths. Daniel's eyes burned with fury as he steadied himself, blood dripping from the cut across his temple. He turned toward me, and for the first time, I didn't see the man I once loved. I didn't see the father of my child. I saw the monster who had destroyed my life, poisoned my family, and now threatened to finish us all. You'll regret that, he hissed, his voice low, feral. Jacob stumbled to his feet, his voice hoarse, but filled with rage.
No, Dad.
You're the one who'll regret everything you've ever done. But before he could move, a soft, broken sound cut through the chaos. Claire? We froze. Emily. Her voice was barely a whisper, but it was enough to still the room. She lay on the floor, her skin pale, her hand stained red, reaching weakly toward me. Her lips trembled as she tried to form the words. I sought him. That night. My breath caught. My heart pounded. Was she saying what I thought she was saying? Her eyes fluttered, glassy with pain. It wasn't you, it was Daniel. The world tilted. For 20 years, I had carried his crime. For 20 years, I had been branded a murderer. And now, in her final breaths, Emily was confessing what she had hidden all along. She had seen it. She knew the truth. Daniel lunged toward her, his face twisted with panic.
No.
Don't listen to her. But Jacob blocked him, shoving him back with all his strength. Shut up. She's telling the truth, isn't she? You killed Callahan, and you let Mom rot in prison for it. Daniel roared, shoving Jacob hard into the wall. They struggled again, fists colliding, fury echoing through the house. I crawled to Emily's side, cradling her face in my hands. Baby, hold on.
Please. Just hold on.
Her eyes searched mine, full of regret. I'm sorry. I thought he loved me, but he's a devil, Claire, a devil. Tears blurred my vision. No, don't talk like that. We'll get you help. You'll be fine. Just stay awake, okay? Stay with me. But her gaze slipped, her breath shallow. And then Daniel's voice thundered across the room. You think anyone will believe her? He grabbed Jacob by the collar, slamming him against the wall again. She's bleeding out. By the time the cops get here, it'll just be your word against mine. And we both know who they'll believe. The ex-convict? Or me? The words twisted like knives in my chest. He was right. His influence, his money, his power, it had protected him once, and it could protect him again. Unless… My eyes darted to Emily's phone, lying on the coffee table, just inches away. The screen lit up faintly with a missed call. Hope surged inside me. If I could get to it, if I could record him, or call for help, everything could change. But Daniel saw where I was looking. His eyes narrowed, his grip on Jacob tightening as his other hand reached for the glass shard again. And then, with a wicked smile, he lifted it high, aiming straight for Jacob's chest. The shard gleamed under the light, Daniel's arm raised high, his eyes blazing with murderous rage. Jacob struggled in his grip, his voice hoarse from being choked. "Mom," he cried, his face turning red. "I didn't think, I just moved." I lunged across the floor, my fingers stretching, and grabbed Emily's phone from the table. My thumb slammed the record button. "Daniel," I screamed, my voice trembling but sharp as a blade. "Do it. Show the world exactly who you are." His head snapped toward me, fury flashing in his eyes.
Turn it off, he roared. Now.
But I didn't. My hand shook as I held the phone out like a weapon. For 20 years I had been silent, but this time, the world would hear him. Jacob gasped, struggling, his chest rising in desperate bursts. Emily groaned faintly on the floor, her eyes fluttering open for a split second before falling closed again. And Daniel's mask cracked. His voice thundered, raw and unfiltered. "You think this proves anything? You think anyone will believe a convict, a bleeding whore, and a weak boy against me?" Every word spilled into the recording, every ounce of his venom captured. My heart raced. I was finally holding the truth. Jacob kicked hard, his foot slamming into Daniel's leg. The shard slipped from his hand, clattering to the ground. Jacob twisted free, coughing, staggering back, his fists clenched. "You're finished, Dad," he spat, his voice rough but steady. "This time, you can't hide behind her. This time, the world sees you." But Daniel wasn't finished. Not yet. He lunged at me, his hand snatching for the phone. I scrambled back, clutching it to my chest, my body shaking. "Don't touch me," I screamed. His hand closed around my wrist, squeezing so hard I thought my bones would snap. Pain shot up my arm. He yanked me forward, his breath hot, his teeth gritted. "Give me the phone, Claire, or I swear I'll bury you myself," Jacob roared, tackling him from the side. The two crashed into the coffee table, splintering wood and glass flying everywhere. The phone slipped from my grip, skidding across the floor. I crawled desperately, my knees scraping, blood smearing across the wood as I reached for it. My fingers brushed the edge, only for a heavy boot to slam down on it. "Daniel." He stood over me, panting, blood dripping down his temple, rage burning in his eyes. He crushed the phone beneath his heel with a sickening crack. My heart dropped into my stomach. The recording gone. His lips twisted into a cruel smile. "And that, my dear Claire, is why I always win." I shook my head violently, tears blurring my vision. "No, not this time, not again." Jacob, bloodied and gasping, grabbed the glass shard from the floor. His hand shook, his face twisted with fury. He pointed it at his father. "Stay away from her. I'm warning you." Daniel turned slowly, almost amused. "You? Warning me?" He chuckled darkly, spreading his arms wide. "Go on then, boy.
Do it. Kill your own father.
Be just like your mother." The words cut through the room like poison. Jacob froze, his knuckles white around the shard. His chest heaved, his eyes locked on Daniel. "Don't listen to him, Jacob," I shouted, my voice breaking. "You're not like him. You're nothing like him." But Daniel's voice slithered in again, calm, manipulative, deadly. "He's exactly like me. The anger, the violence, it's in his blood. It's who he is. He just doesn't know it yet." Jacob's hand trembled, the shard inches from Daniel's chest. His breath came fast, his jaw clenched. For a terrifying second, I thought he would do it. I thought my son would cross that line and never come back. Jacob. I cried, my body shaking. Look at me.
You are my son. Mine.
Not his. Don't let him turn you into what he is. Jacob's eyes darted to me, his lips quivering, his chest rising and falling like a storm. And then, before he could decide, Daniel struck. With lightning speed, Daniel grabbed Jacob's wrist, twisting it until the shard dropped to the floor. He shoved Jacob back, his hand wrapping once again around his throat. And this time, he didn't hesitate. He slammed Jacob's head hard against the wall. The crack echoed through the room. Jacob's body went limp, collapsing to the floor. Jacob! I screamed, my vision blurring with tears, my heart shattering into pieces. I crawled to him, shaking him, begging him to wake up. But he didn't move. His eyes stayed closed, his chest frighteningly still. And Daniel, standing over us, breathing heavy, whispered the words that froze my blood. One by one, Claire, I'm going to take everyone you love, until you're all mine again. Jacob! I screamed, my hands trembling as I held his face, his skin pale under the dim light. His chest rose faintly, but it was weak, too weak. My tears fell on his cheek as I shook him harder. Don't leave me. Baby, please don't leave me. Daniel towered above us, his breath heavy, his shadow stretching across the room like a monster ready to devour us both. He tilted his head, almost calmly, his lips curling into a cold smile. You see, Claire, no matter how much you fight, no matter how much you claw and bleed, you'll always end up here. On the floor.
Crying.
Helpless. While I stand. I looked up at him, hatred burning hotter than the fear that gripped me. 20 years of prison. 20 years of silence. 20 years of living with the scars of a crime that wasn't mine. And now my son lay unconscious because of him. Something inside me snapped. I rose slowly, my body aching, my blood dripping onto the floor, but my eyes never leaving his. No, Daniel. Not this time. You don't get to win. Not again. He chuckled low, stepping closer, his hands flexing as if ready to finish me. What are you going to do? You've got nothing left. But he was wrong. Because Emily stirred behind him, groaning, her voice faint but alive. Her eyes fluttered open, her gaze meeting mine. She mouthed one word, shaky but clear. Phone. I froze.
Yes.
The phone. Not mine, hers. Emily's phone. She had set it on the counter earlier, and in the chaos, Daniel had forgotten about it. My pulse thundered. Daniel moved closer, towering over me. You're mine, Claire. You've always been mine. I gave you everything. And you, he spat, his face twisting. You betrayed me. I let my body tremble, let him think he still owned me, while my eyes flicked toward the counter where Emily's phone lay half hidden under a dish towel. Then I moved. I lunged sideways, my hand snatching the towel, the phone sliding into my palm. In one desperate motion, I swiped and hit record, holding it up high. Say it again. I screamed, my voice raw and shaking. Tell me what you did. Tell the world what you really are. Daniel froze for a fraction of a second, then lunged. But it was too late. His rage poured out, his voice thundering through the room. I did it all. The blood, the lies, the cover-up. Me. And you rotted for me, because you were too weak to let me fall. You think anyone will save you now? You think anyone will believe you after 20 years? Every word hit the recording. Every drop of poison he spewed was captured. And this time, nothing would erase it. Jacob groaned weakly on the floor, his chest rising again, his voice faint but alive. Mom. That single word lit fire through me. Daniel turned toward him, his hand raising as if to finish what he started. I should have drowned you at birth. You're nothing but her shadow. I didn't think. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed the glass shard Jacob had dropped earlier and drove it into Daniel's side with every ounce of strength I had left. He roared, his body jerking, his eyes wide in shock. Blood poured from the wound as he staggered back, his hands clutching at the shard sticking out of him. You, he gasped, his voice strangled. You'll regret this. But I didn't regret it. Not for a second. He collapsed to the floor, his breath shallow, his face pale. For the first time, Daniel looked small.
Weak. Defeated.
Emily crawled toward Jacob, cradling his head in her lap, tears streaming down her face. He's alive, she whispered, her voice trembling. He's still breathing. Relief flooded me, though my body shook violently, my hands covered in Daniel's blood. But I wasn't finished. Not yet. I held Emily's phone up high, the screen glowing, the recording still running. My voice broke, but remained steady enough to say the words that would seal everything. 20 years I paid for his crime. 20 years I lost my life, my son, my family. But tonight the world will finally see the truth. I pressed send, uploading the recording to the cloud, forwarding it to every contact, every platform I had. There was no turning back. Police sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder, closer. Blue and red lights flickered against the curtains. Daniel coughed, blood bubbling at his lips, his eyes burning with hatred even in his final breaths. If I go down, I'll take you with me. I leaned down, my face inches from his, my voice steady for the first time in decades. You already did. But tonight, Daniel. I rose again. The door burst open. Officers stormed inside, guns raised, shouting commands. And there I stood, bloodied, broken, shaking, but free. Truly free. Because this time, I wasn't the one in chains. This time, justice had finally come.